John speaking. How may I help you?
This is Brad Johnson returning your call.
Hi, Brad. How you doing this morning?
I'm doing well.
That's good to hear. Good to hear. So, I had a public records request went into your office on September 1st. It was requesting the public attributes from your certification database from ACADIS. So basically, a roster of the list of people who are authorized to practice law enforcement in the state. And then so whatever publicly available on your database. It went to Kelsey Woodward. Kelsey Woodward sent an email back that well, first she demanded that I put this in through the GovQA portal, which is contrary to legislation.
That's correct.
Well, it's contrary to legislation.
No, it's not contrary to anything. No, it's not.
Well, it says...
Don't tell me what's contrary to legislation. This is Idaho. It's not Texas.
Okay.
And we have a process. We follow that process under Idaho code.
Okay, without you cutting me off and being rude and inconsiderate, because I'm not being rude and inconsiderate to you at all in any way, shape, or form. I can read you where it says...
You were in the message that you left me when you asked to call, and you disparaged my employee, and you've been calling every employee we have multiple times.
Well, now I've been on the phone with the Attorney General's office this morning, so and if I have to, I'll take you to court. But I will talk to you real quick and
Be my guest, partner.
I mean, it's like you wouldn't be the first agency I took to court. We'll go ahead and talk real quick, and if we can't come to a resolution, that's what we'll do. We'll see. We'll have a mediator. But it says very clearly in the opening of that legislation. Do you have the legislation in front of you?
Go ahead.
In the legislation, it says a request for public records and delivery of the public records may be made by electronic mail. That's very, very, very clearly in Section 4. And then, if you go down to Section, let's see here, number 15, Section, so we're looking at subsection 15 in Section, I think it's the same section. Nothing contained herein shall prevent a public agency from providing a copy of public records in electronic format if the record is available in electronic format, and if the person specifically asks or requests an electronic copy. So there's two pieces of legislation. So when you cut me off to be mean and inconsiderate, I wasn't telling you my opinion. I'm reading you legislation. Now, on top of that, when I got an email back, it also said that that there was an invoice, and I asked for clarification on what was being charged, which your legislation very clearly states that there's no lump sum fees, everything should be itemized, and that's in section, let's see here, section 10A. Section 10A states, no fee shall be charged for the first 2 hours of labor, and then it goes on saying, or for copying the first 100 pages of, quote, paper records, unquote. And then on section B1, it goes again, this request is for more than 100 paper records, paper being very clear. Then number 3, it says that the labor would have to be exceed 2 hours of time. And then those are two reasons that you charge. Then on section E, it says fees, if charged, shall reflect the personal and quality of time that are reasonable and necessary to produce the request. And then it goes on further to say that no public agency should charge fees for copies or labor when the requester demonstrates that it is, 1, likely to contribute significantly to public understanding of operations or activities of the government. What we're doing is we're studying officers who are employed by agencies but are not certified. And I believe that very clearly is something that the public has an interest in when someone is impersonating an officer and acting as an officer. That is very, very important. Then in section G, it says statements of fees by public agencies shall be itemized to show that per page cost per copies and hourly rates of employees and attorneys involved in responding to the request. The actual time spent on the public records request, no lump sum costs shall be assigned to any public records request. That's the legislation, sir. So could you please explain to me how that we're not in violation of that now?
So, first of all, we're a division under the Idaho State Police. We follow Idaho State Police policy and procedure, which is what we're doing.
But you follow legislation, right?
If yes.
That's the legislation.
If you have if you have a complaint in regard to how we are following policy and procedure under the Idaho State Police.
But you follow legislation. So I have your handbook here.
With the
So
Idaho State Police.
where are you talking? So you're referring to something I don't understand. So first off, let me get clarity from you. You're saying you follow policy and procedure under what? Because I have the Idaho State Police handbook right here in front of me, which is, let's see here. Pull that up real quick. The police training manual. ADAPA 11, and I have read it thoroughly this morning. Could you please point to me what you're talking about?
I don't know what you're referring to.
I'm referring to the, well, you are the director of post, right?
Yes, I am.
So the ADAPA,
but whatever you just...
Okay, I'll tell you. The ADAPA 11 is a Peace Officer Standards and Training Council 11-11-01 Rules of the Ohio Peace Officer Standards and Training Council, which I assume is
I'll let the Ohio go. It's Idaho, but
I
yes,
said
that is our IDAPA rule.
It's Idaho. I'm so sorry. It's your.
That's okay.
I thought I said Idaho. I could have stuttered because, I mean, honestly, you kind of started a little aggressive. As a public requester, when I make a request, I read legislation. My legal team looks over the legislation before I ever make the request. So when I made the request, I already knew that I was following legislation. Now, I'm on the phone with you after 19 days has passed, and I have been given everything but a denial letter from Kelsey Woodward. Now, on the phone with you, you tell me that you follow, and I don't want to misquote you, because I'm talking about legislation, and you're talking about, what was the manual you said you followed?
Idaho State Police Policy and Procedure.
So, and you're saying that
we're a division of the Idaho State Police.
I understand. So, are you saying that what I just told you is not the state police procedure?
No, that pertains directly to certification, training, etc. for post as an organization, but doesn't. That's not. There's. That IDAPA rule pertains to how Post conducts operations under the guidance of the Post Council. So we're the implementing agency for the Post Council.
But we're going to find the rules that you're saying you operate under. We're going to find that document that you're saying you're operating under that's contrary to this legislation.
With the Idaho State Police.
Well, I mean, I've pulled up everything that I can find, and you have to. Can you give me a document number? So I can't. You're confusing me, and I believe that that's a little that shows a lack of integrity. That I'm sitting here trying to find out why my records request.
Okay. Let me be very clear with you. You've already disparaged my employees.
Yes,
and now you personally attacked me and my integrity. So
no,
I'm about to end this call, and it's not going to continue again in the future. Do you understand me?
So you're telling me I'm not allowed?
That's the last time I'm going to take any of this crap out of you because you think you're somebody that can threaten me and disparage my integrity.
Sir,
Are we clear?
It's very clear. I will make it clear that I'm a citizen that's redressing my grievances with my government, which is protected by the First Amendment right. And you are the...
Okay, that's good for you. So we're a division of the Idaho State Police. If you have a complaint about posts, you can take it up with the Idaho State Police. Can I tell you that
I've recorded this entire conversation.
County Sheriff's Office?
Yes. Is Sean Go available?
What's it regarding?
He is the chairman for the Post Standards Council, and I need to discuss with him a situation going on with Post Standards and Brad Johnson.
Okay, hold on just a moment.
Thank you so much.
Let me write that down. And what's your name?
John Ryan.
How do I spell your last name?
R-Y-A-N.
That's what I thought. I just wanted to make sure.
Yes,
and then a phone number?
469-554-0970.
Okay, and you are with who?
Audit Archives. We're a government watchdog organization.
And he is he expecting your call?
I don't think so. I just got off the phone with Brad Johnson, and very unpleasant call. And it looks like the next level of hierarchy would be to speak to council members concerning the situation. So I looked up the council members and contacted the current chairman.
Okay, I'm gonna put you on hold, okay?
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Are you there?
I am.
Okay, so he is on the other line at the moment, but I can transfer you to his voicemail and just leave him the information and he'll be back with you.
I can hold.
Well, I don't know how long it's going to take.
But he's good at returning calls?
Yes, he's good at returning calls.
Okay, then
Very good there.
I'll leave him a message then. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
You've reached the desk of Sheriff Sean Goff. I'm not available at this time. Please leave a detailed message and I will call you back as soon as possible. Thank you.
You may start your message now.
Hi, I'm Mr. Sheriff Goff. My name is John Ryan. I'm with Audit Archives. I'm calling concerning a serious situation in violation of legislation by Brad Johnson of your Peace Officer Standards Training. He's the director there. I'm sure you know that already. And I would like to get a little bit of clarity from you and give you a little bit of clarity of what's going on. If you can give me a call back at 469-554-0970 at your earliest convenience, it'd be greatly appreciated. Thank you, Mr. Goff, and you have a wonderful day. Alright, so that was that. That's the chairman. Let's call the vice chairman James Fry Jr., who is also the chief of police with the Moscow Police Department, which was the police department that Brad Johnson at one time worked for, likely under his leadership.
Moscow Police?
Yes, ma'am. May I speak with Chief James Fry, please?
May I tell him who's calling?
Yes, this is John Ryan with Audit Archives.
Okay, just one moment.
Thank you.
Good morning, Moscow Police.
I was being transferred to Chief James Fry.
Yes. Can I ask who's calling?
Yes, this is John Ryan with Audit Archives.
I'm sorry, what company are you with?
Audit Archives.
Archives. Okay.
Audit Archives.
What does your business? Okay, and what does your business do?
We're data analysts.
Oh, okay. Well, that would not probably pertain to the chief.
I called him specifically because he is the vice chairman of the Post Standards Council.
Oh, okay. So it's pertaining to Post. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And again, your first name?
John.
John. All right. Hold on just a moment, John, and I'll transfer you.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Your time is valuable, and we appreciate your patience while we work to get to your call. Please remain on the line, and we'll return to assist you in just a moment.
They're quite quick to try to get somebody to tell you it's the wrong person.
Hello?
Yes, is this Mr. James Fry?
Speaking.
Hi, Mr. Fry. My name is John Ryan. I'm with Audit Archives. We're a non-profit watchdog organization. How are you doing today?
Good.
Nice to hear you. So I just got off the phone with your Bradley Johnson, who's your director of your post, and I see that you're the vice chairman. Is that correct?
That is correct.
That's awesome. So on September 1st of this year, our agency sent in a public records request to receive the updated certified list of certified officers in the state through Post database, the ACADIS database, the publicly available fields. So I received, I was told by Kelsey Woodward, who is your records clerk there at Post, that my request must go through a portal called GovQA, and I did submit the request through GovQA, although legislation clearly says I can send an electronic email, and I'll tell you why that comes into handy. Is that about a week later, I get an email that says that I have an invoice waiting for me in GovQA. So I go into to the website and I try to log in, and it says my password is wrong, which I'm a data analyst, so I disagree with that, but I couldn't see what you have in your system as my password, so I couldn't tell if it was right or wrong. So I hit the forgot a password, and it sends me over a temporary password, which I put in, and it tells me I need to change my password. And every time I try to change my password, it says my current password is wrong. So it's a never-ending glitch to be able to log in to pay an invoice that exists. But on top of that, the invoice, I asked for clarity through a reply email to Kelsey Woodward, clarity on what the charge was, because legislation doesn't allow lump sum fees. It only allows itemized, itemized labor fees. They spell them out. And I didn't get a receipt. I did get one more email back, and that email stated that it was over 100 pages, and legislation provides for fees for over 100 pages. So I sent an email clarifying that I'm asking for electronic records, not paper records, and the legislation that she's referring to clearly states paper records. And I didn't get an email back from that whatsoever. At the day 14, though, I did get an email saying that my public records request was being closed due to non-payment of the invoice. So I then made a phone call today to discuss with the director on what is going on here, because there are multiple violations of legislation. Brad Johnson, who I will say is extremely unprofessional. I know he worked under you, didn't he?
He started out as a reserve here years and years, even before I was in law enforcement.
Okay, so you weren't there then.
So I guess if that's no, okay. That was in the 80s, and I didn't come in until the 90s.
Okay, yeah.
I was still in high school.
Yeah, 83 I think is when he was there. That was a long time ago. Yeah,
I was an 8th grader.
Yeah, exactly. So he stated that, and I take nothing away from his credentials. He was just a mean person in general. He stated that that he's following state police training manual. Now, I don't know much about this training manual. I have tried to retrieve what he was referring to. I do know the legislation on public record requests, and I asked him if he was referring to the ADAPA 11, the post council rules and regulations that are set forth.
The IDAPA.
IDAPA, yeah.
Rules.
So the IDAPA rules. So I asked him if he was speaking about that, and he said, no, I'm talking about the Idaho State Police. We're a division of the Idaho State Police. So I asked him what document number
that is correct.
Okay, what document number that would be, in order so I could then look up those rules. And he did not give me that document number. And in fact, and I recorded the conversation, so that way if you need to hear the way this conversation played out, he then said, well, you've disparaged my employees, and it said something else, that you think you're something special, and basically attacked me. And I said, well, because you're confusing me, I know legislation, I'm reading that, and now you're referring to a document that you're not disclosing. That shows a lack of integrity. And then he said, well, you're attacking my integrity, and I don't have to talk to you, and he hung up on me. So I'm not sure. So I explained to him that I am a citizen redressing my grievance according to the First Amendment rights of the United States of America. So I'm not really sure what his issue is, but I do know that it is what we're studying are uncertified officers working for agencies that needed to take refresher courses in order to make their certifications valid again, because they had been either not employed for 3 years. I don't have to explain to you what perishable skills are. So perishable skills, we're studying that. And in order to study that, we must know who is certified within a state. It is public records. And we're being denied that, but not with a denial letter. So I'm not getting the denial at all. I'm just getting Mr. Brad Johnson being, in my personal opinion, a pretentious butthead. And I don't think that shows integrity or honor in any way, shape, or form.
So obviously I'm not in Meridian right now. I'm in Moscow. So why don't you let me do a little follow-up and figure out what's going on and what rules or whatever, what they're looking at as far as why I guess it's not that there's a denial, because there's not been a denial. It's just been no payment.
They closed it.
So let me check.
You're right. No payment. Right, because they didn't itemize.
But it was because of no payment.
I want to be clear that the payment was the money is not my issue. It's not about. It was like $2.80. It's not about the amount of money. Although it is in a way, because it wasn't itemized, and when I'm asking for clarification, that's required by legislation. So yeah, I just want to make sure I'm clear that the payment itself, or the money that they're charged, is not an unreasonable amount if there were some type of legislative backing to that. So
right. So like I said, you have to give me a little bit of time to do a little follow-up on this. I got to call down there and chat with them to see what,
Sure.
Like I said, because did you talk to Sheriff Goff also?
I called Sheriff Goff. He hasn't called back. How would you know that already?
Well, I just assumed if you called the vice chair, you called the chair prior to.
Yes, you're a smart guy. I see why you do what you do. Yes, I did.
Well,
call.
I would have started at the top too, personally.
Well, yeah, I've talked to so many people. At this point in time, I'm reaching the top because I'm on the phone also this morning with the Attorney General's office. So the AG is also looking into this themselves. So I figured.
So who'd you talk to at the AG's office?
Let me pull that up. I'll tell you right now. It was. I might have to listen to the conversation and get the name. Oh, I'll just send an email over, so I can give you the email address I sent it to. It was sent to. Sent mail. ISPlegal@isp.idaho.gov, and I was on the phone with a lady, and I believe her name. She introduced herself on the phone. I didn't quite document her name. I did in the audio, but I haven't transferred the audio to a transcript yet. So I don't have it completely available, but she had me send the email over to that email address and then verify that she received it, and said she was sending it over to one of her attorneys there to look at it. And I can give you the request.
Looked at by them, right?
It is. I mean, really, I'm just trying to get it. So I have had to take agencies to district court and even a federal court once before in order to obtain public records. And the one thing I remember very clearly about that litigation was the state's attorney bringing up that I had not exhausted all my remedies. So what I'm doing now is exhausting all my remedies and documenting that I've spoke with each person that could possibly fix this first.
Well, I can tell you, typically your vice chair and chair of both council isn't going to be the one that gets fixed because we're one vote. So it would, this would have to be something that would have to go before council, I would assume.
Well, I mean, there's already legislation in place. I'm not looking for to change anything. This already is the rules.
Right.
This is violating rules that already exist.
And that's why I need to get a hold of some other people and talk to them and see what, I'm going to do my homework before I...
Certainly.
So, give me your name again.
It's John Ryan.
John Ryan?
Yes, sir.
And you're with...
Audit Archives. We're Audit Archives. We're an independent data analyst organization that submits records to Better Governments Association, the National Freedom of Information Coalition, and several other nonprofit watchdog organizations that we create dashboards for, and we do graphs and visualizations.
Perfect. All right. Well, and how about a number?
Yes, it's 469-554-0970.
0970. Okay. Let me make some phone calls, and I will get back to you sometime this week. How does that sound?
That sounds perfect.
Do it as fast as I can, but I got other things going on as well, and I always tell people give me a few days, because if my life goes upside down with other people making poor decisions, then I sometimes have to prioritize which is higher, and so I just like to throw that out there, so I'm not ignoring you. I'm just trying to get some stuff done. Okay.
I understand that very much, Chief Fry. I appreciate your time this morning, and I look forward to hearing from you within a week or so.
right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Speaking with?
Sheriff Goff, you just left a message on my phone.
I did. How are you doing this morning, Sheriff?
Good.
That's good to hear. So I called you because you are the current chairman of the Post Council, and I was just had a very unpleasant conversation with Brad Johnson, who is the director of Post.
Okay. Well, for starters, he doesn't work for me.
Oh, I thought. Let me find some clarity.
He works for the Idaho State Police.
He's the director of the Peace Officer Standards Training Association?
Correct. Appointed by the Idaho State Police. He works for the State Police. I'm just on the Post Council.
Right, but you...
Appointed by the governor.
Right, but
I'm not his boss.
You're not his boss. You're not his boss, but you are a member of the council.
I'm not his boss.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. I'm still talking to the right person, I believe. I have the IDAPA 11 handbook here, and I'm just going by the way legislation is written, and then the IDAPA handbook. I don't know what other documents I need to read. Honestly, I don't write law, and I'm not in these meetings on who does what, so I can just read law and try to interpret it the best I can, and then I have a lawyer that does that too, and that's the best I can do. So what I'm calling you for is that there's a public records request that went into Post on September 1st.
Okay.
It went through to Kelsey.
The council has nothing to do with that.
So the council has nothing to do.
The Post Council sets policy for peace officer standards and training. We are not his boss.
Okay, so you don't set any policy for public records requests?
No, that is set by the Idaho State Police and the Attorney General's office.
In the AG's office, so you do nothing when it comes to the way public records requests are dealt with. Zero. And so this is of no interest to you then.
Correct.
All right, Mr. Goff. I mean, I found that fortunately, Mr. Fry was a little more receptive than yourself.
Mr. Who?
Mr. James Fry.
Oh, good. We don't set policy for Post for their internal workings. We just don't.
But you have a voice, right?
Not when it comes to their internal policy with the Idaho State Police and the Attorney General's office.
What about legislation?
We can suggest legislation.
Mm-hmm. We
can support legislation.
You can support legislation. That's important right there.
We can, yeah. Yes.
So you can support legislation in the areas of public records requests too, right?
I've never been involved in that. That's for attorneys, man.
I get it. I mean,
we're certainly not attorneys.
No, I get it. I mean, the legislation is written. We just read it. I didn't vote on it. I don't.
Right.
I'm not a politician. I didn't vote on this, but I do know what Title 74 says. So I did read it because I do have I have the ability to understand things when I read them in words.
So what is it that you're? Let's get to the chase. What is it you're after?
I'm after the records of all certified officers within the state because there has been an increasing amount of reports of uncertified officers being employed by agencies within your state, within Idaho.
Well, I know that's not true, but I think Brad's willing to give you those records, but it's going to cost you. I think they were going to waive the fee. So.
Oh, okay. So now that's fine. That's fine. So if they're going to waive the fees, and there's nothing really to talk about. The fees we're talking about because the fees were being applied to electronic records as if they were paper records. But if they're waiving the fees,
they're going to waive the fees. So.
Oh well, then.
So, but the secretary's not in today, so she'll probably get back to you tomorrow.
Oh, awesome, Chairman. I appreciate your time, Sheriff Goff, and I know you're a busy man. So if that's really what I'm looking for. We just have to do our work too. So I appreciate your time today.
You bet.
Thank you, sir. All right, I'm back. Are you still with me?
You bet.
All right, great. So you're with Idaho, right?
Yes, I'm the director of the Idaho State Police.
Awesome. And so you're the supervisor for the Bradley Johnson, the person I spoke with this morning. Is that correct?
I don't know who you spoke with this morning, but I am the director of the state police.
Oh, and Bradley Johnson reports directly to you.
Who does?
I think it's Brad Johnson, the director. Director.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Administrator at Post.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, absolutely.
So he reports to my office, but he also has reporting authority to the Post Council as well. So it kind of depends on the issue which one he reports to.
Right. I've already spoke with Mr. Fry, the vice chairman of the council, and Mr. Gouch, I think I'm saying that right. Groff, the chairman.
Goff.
Thank you so much, Goff. The GH always gets me. So I think that we have this handled. I do want to bring it to the attention of everybody who's relevant here, because what we're doing here, our stakeholders are interested in refresher courses and officer certifications. Obviously, decertifications is one thing. Expired or non-valid certifications due to refresher course, necessary refresher courses is a whole different thing. We don't have the data on how many people are wearing the uniform and performing the duties that take the liberty of American citizens every day, that are actually certified, and those that may not even be aware of some of the newer legislations because they haven't taken a refresher course or met the legislative necessities to be a law enforcement officer in the state. That's basically the data set that we're examining. In order to examine that data set, we have to have the list of who is certified. Obviously, we don't want to know who they work for. That does not. Well, that's, it changes, so it doesn't. We used to do that. We did our data request to the political subdivisions, but the officers were changing positions in different departments so often that the data set wasn't genuine, and that's not good for us. So now we are applying with a state. So Idaho sent over. I guess Kelsey Woodward had sent me an email that said that it was there was a fee. I couldn't even log into to your system to see how much the fee was, so I don't know how much it was. It said it was $2.80 fee for a credit card charge, but it didn't say how much the invoice was for. But it did state that it's over 100 pages in the email. And then so I was trying to understand the legislation, and I see that the legislation does allow for a charge if it's over 100 paper pages, which makes sense. A lot of states use the word copy or pages, but paper pages is what they're referring to there. But that became a dispute, which I didn't understand much at all. And then we finally got, I think that Mr. Goff has it under control. He said they're going to waive the fees on that. We'll see. I mean, my job is just to finish the data set, and if there's a non-compliant state, then we just go ahead and I'm not going to argue with people who so that's basically what's going on, is that there was this argument of a legislation that I felt was very clearly written, and then the government QA site, that was equally burdensome. So with that site, I was forced to use it to begin with by Kelsey Woodward. They said that this is what I have to do. Although legislation says I can send an electronic mail request too, that wasn't something that I was afforded. And then when I did make the request and the invoice came in, or the email telling me there was an invoice, and I went to log in to check in, possibly pay it, and see what was going on with the invoice, it wouldn't let me log in. It said my password was incorrect. So I went in, I went to forgot password, and it sent me a temporary password over, which I logged in with that, and then it told me it had my current password aggregated but privatized, and then 2 sections for a new password, and then to re-enter your new password. Well, when I did that, it just said my current, it actually altered what I'd entered into 2 more characters, both privatized, so I don't know what it was doing, and then it would just come back and say your current password is incorrect. So there was no point in time that I could log into the system, which is why we use direct email for our public records requests, because of things just like that. So I wanted to bring that to the attention of somebody like yourself, because that's what we were referred to use, and it has to work properly even for me to subjectively decide whether I'm going to pay the invoice. If the invoice was itemized and said, hey, we have to do this work right here in order to fulfill it, I want to know about that in order to pay it, if it's over 2 hours of labor, or things that are burdensome to the agency. So while I'm trying to be cooperative, I just want to make sure I give you a feedback that what we're trying to do is of major interest to the general public. We need to know if there's judicial processes that are being started by officers that are not certified, because that comes with incarceration for some. And if the certification doesn't exist to do the job, then that's a major issue in due process. So it's of obvious value to the public to be able to verify the certification status of an officer is involved with interacting with the public. So that was one thing I pointed out, but I don't want to be redundant and tell you the exact same thing I've told everyone else unless it's something of interest to you.
Well, my
my interest is that you got the information that you needed. And you got your question resolved.
Not yet.
That's my question.
No, not yet.
Who are you working with?
Well, I mean, I guess it went from Kelsey Woodward, and then the last person I spoke with was Jim Fry Jr. He said he was going to speak with someone, I guess maybe you, it might have been you, to get the records sent. And then I spoke with Mr. Goff, who said they were waiving the fees, which I think is appropriate in this case because I think that's what the legislation intended. And then they would get that over to me. But Kelsey's off on Monday, so apparently I'm waiting till tomorrow to find out if that's going to be fulfilled or not.
Okay. So let me check with. So your frustration. I want to make sure I understand correctly. Your frustration is with the system and the way the system's set up and the hoops that you felt like you had to go through in the system. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think there's a page. I've aggregated everything for you on the Audit Archives website. So I don't know if you're allowed to use external websites, but auditarchives.com under the certified police officer link, and this is basically it's an open project. It's for officers to be able to use as equally as anybody. There is, once it gets past the banner, it kind of gives you a quote. Auditarchives.com is a Department of Justice link on the main navigation bar, and then certified law enforcement link right under there, and it has some sublinks, but those aren't important. If you click on a certified law enforcement officers link, there is a map of all the states in the country, and obviously it includes Idaho, and the aggregated content from the efforts are openly available, so you can see what happened. But yeah, it was a process that the average American citizen, I'm a data analyst, so my job is to ask why, but the average American citizen just would not go through these types of hoops. And I'll be honest, I don't know about Idaho yet because we have not looked at the data, and I'm not looking to judge anyone because this is new, fresh data. We finally have the ability to look at these type of things, so I'm just happy we have that ability. And what we're finding in the states that we have already received data from there are officers, or you can't call them officers if they're not certified. There are people that would be guilty of impersonating an officer, maybe not willfully, I don't know that about intent, but guilty of impersonating an officer that are initiating judicial processes and political subdivisions that then involve the court process, the whole thing. And the initial stop or the initial interaction was not legislatively sound. So while that I'm trying to put buttercream on top of a crap pie, so to speak, that's really what's going on, and we have to be able to examine that and several other things that we're looking at. But yeah, so I appreciate you getting a hold of me to see if we've gotten the records. We have not gotten them yet, though.
Okay. So under our state law, I would only caution. I can't speak for any other state, but I would caution you to not jump to the conclusion of the correlation of in Idaho of a certified peace officer versus somebody initiating a court proceeding, because the two don't correlate necessarily. They could, but they don't necessarily do, and this is why. In our state, you have 1 year from date of hire to be certified. So you may not show up on that certification list for a year,
okay,
and you still have the authority to act as a peace officer in Idaho, okay, according to your political subdivision that you're employed by. So just something for you to be aware of.
Oh, that's very good data.
As you're looking at these data, that's completely, I don't know how any other state does it, but in Idaho, the two do not necessarily correlate.
And that's excellent information. That's what, and I'm very glad you shared that, because if we did look at that and saw that this many officers were not currently certified, we want to see that they had been on the force for over a year at that point in time, which is maybe another data set, and that won't necessarily be the same thing on, like, say, Arkansas. So that's very, very good to know, and I'll definitely notate that. I did leave on the site there is a comment section that's open to anyone, and now I know that there's a lot of departments and agencies, even political subdivisions, won't allow officers to comment, or people who on open external sources, and so I'm hoping that this project doesn't turn into a biased project, and we will be monitoring it to make sure that trolls, so to speak, aren't giving multiple examples of anecdotal those type of things that you see. We don't want that to be the case here. We're looking at data that supports legislation, and I think that for a long time in America we have been shielded, maybe for good reason, but I don't know, but shielded from data that allows us to look at law enforcement in a big picture. I've spoke with post training centers like Nevada who don't even have an ACADIS database. They don't have the ability to export these files. I do see that Idaho was fortunate enough to get a new ACADIS database, actually, which is nice, because you're afforded the ability to do that very quickly. But yes, some states don't even. Colorado, the AG went on TV to say that he didn't know who was certified in his state or who's not. And I thought that's one of the most embarrassing things I've ever seen an AG ever do, is say that I don't know who works for me. But yeah, I'm not judging Idaho at all. I'm just looking at data, and even then, you might hear me judge like this when I'm talking to you one-on-one. But if I publish it, or anybody in our agency publishes it, it should come across with as little bias as possible. Now, I do have some writers who write content that can be they're pushing the limits sometimes in their personal beliefs, and we've had some conversations about that. But yeah, I implore you to freely use the data as we get it in as well.
So I appreciate that. I appreciate the invitation. I was a little bit hung up on the one question you said about an attorney general who said he didn't know who was certified in his state, and the comment that you made was he didn't know who works for him. Was that
yeah, in Colorado they didn't have a post. They don't have a post. It's the way they do it is the attorney general in Colorado is the head of the law enforcement commission. So there were the public records. They get a bunch of public. Yeah, it's different. They get a bunch of public records requests a year, basically requesting the same thing I am. I think I spoke with Amanda Yarsborough that was Arkansas, who had 7 or 8 this year alone, and her database didn't allow her to remove the undercover assignments easily. She had to go and I guess they flagged them in the ACADIS database. They flagged undercovers to avoid any mistake on who might be undercover. So somebody's giving the records of an officer involved in something, and it shows up as an undercover. That person, that custodian, would see that in the top of the profile. So, which makes sense, don't get me wrong. But when she went to export the 26,000 certified officers, she could not, as a big data set, then eliminate the undercover assignments from that data set, which I felt like that was a really interesting thing that we figured out, because 8 people have already made the request, and who knows how long it would take for it to be fulfilled, unless we uncovered what the issue was and it spoke with ACADIS or I can't say the word, Envion, I think is the name of the company, ACADIS. And able to find out how they could quickly change those flags over to a categorization style. So yeah, I appreciate talking to you, because this is stuff you might be interested in.
Yeah, so that's helpful. So I've made a note to touch base with Kelsey tomorrow to make sure you're getting what you need. If there's something else I can do to help, reach out and let me know, okay?
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for your time today, and you have a beautiful day. Stay frosty out there.
You bet. Take care.
Yes, sir.
See ya.